This is Central Texas Living with Ann Harder.
We are in what I like to call the dog days of summer, the most boring time of the year for weather professionals. And I'm so glad to welcome my friend and former colleague, Matt Hines, to the Central Texas Living podcast. Now, you're coming up on a 13th anniversary.
Yeah, 13 years, 12 years with you.
I know.
So it's pretty amazing. Over a decade with the Ann Harder. And now 13 years coming up, KXXV, and working from home in this environment here.
Well, and the way longtime weathercasters, I'm thinking all over, the United States, you're still a newbie at 13 years.
Yeah.
Sort of, kind of.
Yeah, kind of. But I like to call this, I was discussing this earlier, I like the summertime now. I used not to be a huge fan of it.
I know.
But now I really like it because spring is there's just so much going on and trying to stay up as a meteorologist and doing all that. And summer, we just kind of get to catch our breath and work on some things. And finally we can kind of relax a little bit.
Yeah, because in the spring, you usually do a special. Mm-hmm. And so let's talk a little bit about severe weather. I mean, that's sort of what drives the train, in a way, I would think, for a weather forecaster. And you've got a great, team there, who just really love you. It's strange to say, but you love severe weather. Yeah,
you have to. What I tell everyone that comes and works for me is you have to be a nerd about weather. And if you're not, a severe weather market's not for you.
Right.
Because you have to be willing to cancel plans.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to get up in the middle of the night and cover it. And we had that Easter morning.
Yeah.
This past spring, Easter morning, we had a tornado warning in McLennan County. So you just have to be ready at all times. There are no holidays. Weather doesn't take a holiday. It's 365, 366 on leap year.
Yeah. So this is severe weather country. And why is that? Can you explain?
Well, there's a lot of things that come into play here. Texas is very unique, and the plains are very unique, just on a world scale. Because we had the Gulf of Mexico, and what I like to say is that's the gasoline that you put into your car. Mm-hmm. So that's the gasoline you put in your car. That makes everything run. If we didn't have the Gulf of Mexico, we wouldn't have the fuel for showers and thunderstorms here. We'd be more like Arizona, the deserts out in New Mexico, and something west, like that. Yeah. So that is the gas station we need here. And that fuel comes up into here, and we have all sorts of air masses that meet up in the plains. And it's very unique because we have Canada to the north that brings in the cold fronts, and that can create some of the thunderstorms. We also have out to the west, of course, the deserts. And we have a very unique feature that's only found 2 places in the world. And it's called the dry line. And the dry line separates, just like a cold front separates cold air and warm air, a dry line separates the dry air to the west, the moist air to the east, and that clash of the air masses is a clash, and that can spark off thunderstorms as well.
And we're only found here in that,
it's only found here in down in South America. Those are the only 2 places a dry line exists. So we're in a very unique place.
That's where the name Tornado Alley kind of comes from?
Yes, there is Tornado. There's also Dixie Alley, too. Yeah. That's in the southeastern part of the United States. They've actually been more active. Right, Oklahoma didn't see, Oklahoma City didn't see much at all.
Yeah, deadly storms in the past. Well, when I would talk to folks about television business, I said, it's rewarding. It was rewarding for me as a news broadcaster to bring information and stories to people. But the most important thing we did or do is weather, because people die from it.
Yes, they can. And that's why I take my job extremely seriously. Yeah. And you have to be like that. Like, there are the days, like now in the summertime, I'm showing whatever I can show to make it entertaining.
You're trying to be creative.
But I think people realize when I turn on the serious mode, of course, I wear the red tie.
Yeah.
And that's become a real thing now. People watch for that red tie.
That's right.
And then when they see that, they're like, okay, now it's serious, Matt. We got to actually.
It's a solid red tie, though.
Yes,
if you got a speckled red tie,
that's not
or
the
a
same.
striped red tie, that's different. And tell everybody how you retire these ties.
Yes, unfortunately, we do get fatalities.
Yeah,
and I want to remember those fatalities that have happened under me. So what I do is I take a Sharpie, I write the date, I write the person's name, and I put it and I store it away. So I always have that. And you pull it out and you go, that's why I do my job. Whenever the days you're like, oh my gosh, can I keep doing this? Can I keep going? I've been doing this for 20 years. Yeah, you can, because you see that and you go, yeah, my job means something.
Yeah. Things have changed so much. I know people, obviously, who remember the 1953 tornado in Waco, and you've studied it, I'm sure.
A lot.
as a meteorologist.
And where the studio is, that's pretty close to where it was coming across.
Sure. And, it was just such a dramatic and deadly event. But so many changes have happened with the technology you use.
Oh, yeah. They had a radar system at Texas A&M in 1953. Very primitive. And the term hook echo that you hear used actually came from the Waco tornado. They saw this appendage that came out, and they didn't know what it was at the time, and then they realized that's what it was when they started doing research later. So the term hook echo came from the Waco tornado of 1953.
Yeah,
so
and it's something you definitely can see when you're
sure.
watching the radar. But now, I mean, you can get a street level.
Yeah, we can go right down to street level, and if they would have had that back then, they would have had a lot more. I mean, things would have been different. And Waco, just economically back then, was on pace with Austin.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize that.
Oh, the downtown was
it was booming.
Yeah.
And if that one event would not have happened, where would Waco be today?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just amazing to think about. That took Waco down for, I mean, Waco's a great place. It still grew, but it took it away from that for about 2 decades.
Well,
before it really started exploding.
It moved everything to the suburbs,
it
it really kind of took Magnolia
Mm-hmm.
to help bring things back alive in downtown Waco. Well, I lost count really of all the kids who would want to come and spend some time with you in the Weather Center, because it just fascinates children, and in so many little boys, little girls. I think one of these days we're going to see them on the air because they're just so. They're that weather nerd way early.
That's what happened to me.
I thought that was you.
So in kindergarten, that's when I found my love for weather. Yeah. And that's what there's usually with every meteorologist, there's usually an event that turned them on to weather. And mine was, I was sitting downstairs and I had watching Sesame Street. My mom was taking a nap upstairs. She ran downstairs, said, "There's a tornado warning. We need to get in what we call our Frady hole," which was underneath the counter in the bathroom.
All right.
That was next to the kitchen. And so she went. I kept going to the glass door.
Yeah, you wanted to see it.
Yeah, you're not supposed to be there, right? But, I'm in kindergarten. And so at that moment, I saw my neighbor's fence just fly away. And the tornado in the field behind us, and I was
you actually saw the funnel cloud.
I have to know what makes that happen. And that's how I got interested in meteorology, and that very moment got me here today. And the neighbors that live next door to us live next door to now my wife's parents.
Really?
And they're the ones that introduced us. So I owe those people for my career and my wife.
Your wife and your 2 precious twins.
Yes,
and
Austin
I
and
remember when they were born, and they're going into the 3rd grade.
You're right.
They're going into the 3rd grade.
They were born. 2011, of course, was the year we had all the heat.
Well,
and
we'll talk about that in a minute. But first, I want to talk about the twins. So, are they kind of showing inkling that maybe they want to follow in your footsteps?
Austin kind of is.
Yeah, really.
He's interested. He's interested in a lot of things, though. Yes. His mind is just constantly going. So he's interested. Really, I think civil engineering. He loves to build bridges. He loves to build.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. And Addison's really interested in baking and stuff like that. Good. She wants to own her own bakery. That's what she says.
And she's a gymnast too.
She does gymnastics as well, and he plays baseball and football. So we'll see how that pans
cute
out.
Kids, just precious kids. Well, yeah, they were coming along the way that very famous summer.
Yeah, and the day they were born, that night it rained for the first time in Waco in forever.
And that was in November.
Yes.
I remember that as well.
We got a big thunderstorm that night they were born. I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting. When there had been so much drought. Yeah.
Could be that, drop in barometric pressure did something. But yeah, so the summer of 2011, there were T-shirts.
We made those T-shirts.
Yeah, I survived it. That was now how many 100-degree days?
90 100-degree days. And I can't remember how many you had in a row, but it was in the 20s and 30s. I mean, it was nuts. It was crazy. And once you start getting on a streak like that, you're like, well, we might as well go ahead and break the record. We've gone this far.
Yeah, let's keep going.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah. Anyone that was here in the summer of 2011, you lived history. A lot of weather history on that one. So, and then we had our 114-degree day, the hottest ever. That was, what, 2-3 years ago?
Yeah, maybe year before last.
Yeah.
I don't
so
know.
I think
I was there.
So I've been here for 2 major heat events.
Yeah.
The hottest temperature ever recorded, and those 90 days we had back in the summer of 2011. And that started back, it started hitting hundreds in May.
Right. I do remember
insane.
that. It was,
but it was so dry.
So even though we've had a few really hot days, it's not been anything close to what.
And we had all the wildfires then too.
Right.
We had that wildfire that was west of Fort Worth near Possum Kingdom Lake. And that actually, we had one day where we had all the smoke blow across central Texas, and it obscured the sun.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was a big drought.
There's so much involved in weather, though. I mean, and you like to bring folks even things having to do with the moon and the phases and all that kind of thing. It's all just part of the science of your job, right?
Yeah, we're the station scientists. That's what they want us to be. It's not just, I mean, meteorologists, we're on Earth and the atmosphere, but we have to know a little bit about astronomy. We have to know a little bit about geology because earthquakes happen. And who in the station knows about earthquakes?
Right.
Well, not many people unless you lived in California. So they come to us as the station scientists to explain that to people. And even in our weather system, we have earthquake detections. We can pull that up just on an instant.
Oh, yeah.
So, and then talking about, we have Neowise, the comet that's out there right now that you can see at dawn and dusk. And it's hard to see right now, but I've been trying to look for it. But some of the pictures have been amazing.
Yeah, of course, we've gone through the horrific Saharan desert.
Oh, we get that. Yeah, that is actually a yearly thing.
Yeah,
but
it is.
This year was really thick. It
Yeah.
really came across. One good thing that happens with that, though, is you get less tropical activity. So we've had named storms. We have 5 named storms as of this.
That's right. We haven't had much of anything.
But they've been weak and they've been out into the Atlantic, and that's one thing. We may have a major hurricane season with above normals, but if they're all fish storms out in the ocean,
who cares?
Then it doesn't matter. So hopefully that's the way it's going to be, but we still have the peak to go in August and September.
If there was a particular storm, is there a particular weather event that you recall reporting that really sticks in your mind? That might be
there are a lot of them. I covered Hurricane Lily back in 2002, and that was my first experience of covering a hurricane. And we were down there on the Louisiana coast, and just to see the anticipation and everything, and driving along the coastal highway, and there's nobody. It's like a ghost town.
Yeah.
And then
as it should be.
And then going through it.
Yeah.
And actually experiencing it as a person and not just a meteorologist. Yeah, the phenomenon was, but all the power goes out. So when all the power goes out, you have the power go out at your house. But when all of the power goes out citywide, water doesn't work, your toilet doesn't work. There's a lot of things that you take for granted. Yeah. And all of a sudden you don't have, and you're like, oh, wow. And then, of course, no AC. So, I mean, it was definitely an experience that I can remember, like, wow, this really does affect people in a big way. And then there was Hurricane Rita, and I went through that. And that, of course, they evacuated all of Houston for that one. And
so you were reporting for another station.
Reporting. I got a great shot of me in Galveston with the big wave. That was a cool shot. But I think the biggest thing I took from that one was we stopped on I-10, we turned off the car, we got out of the car, and it was complete silence in the middle of downtown Houston. Not a soul, not a car, nothing. That was very interesting. It felt like the apocalypse had just happened.
Yeah, now that wasn't the eye of the storm, was
no,
it? That was
no,
before it
no.
happened?
That was before it happened, but they had evacuated
everybody was out.
It was unbelievable to see a major U.S. city like that barren of anybody.
Well, this is an important takeaway too, that people do listen to what you're saying, that they do understand when things are happening, weather-wise, that they need to be
and are we perfect?
Aware,
are we perfect with it? No.
Yeah.
But we can get it down to a pretty good science right now. We can tell people, hey, a few days in advance, this is the area we're looking at. I can't tell you your specific city. And if anyone's saying they can, then they're lying to you. But once we get to day of, yeah, we can really start to narrow it down. And we have computer models now with the new satellites that have been launched and everything that they update every 5 minutes. I mean, it's on a 5-minute scale, so you can see storms literally popping up. So the science is getting a lot better. Yes.
I recall, you talked about, how we would tap in on your expertise. I remember when the West explosion happened. Yeah. Of course,
there was another memorable moment.
That was another memorable for all of us.
Yeah.
Because, there was a lot of concern when that explosion happened in a fertilizer plant. What is in the air and where's it going and how's it going to affect people? And I recall you, right at the very beginning of our reporting.
So I have a story about that day.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting at home. My mother-in-law's with us. Because we just had the kids. They weren't very old. And I was clicking through the channels and I saw you and Bruce. I was like, is that a promo? That looks odd. Then I turned up the volume and y'all were talking about this explosion. I went, oh, I think I got to go. So I back out and I accidentally hit my mother-in-law's Lexus because I was in a hurry.
Memorable.
Yeah, that was a memorable part of it. But I remember coming back in and our news director, Dennis, at the time, I came in and he handed me a little hazmat book. He goes, you need to research this. And I was like, wow, you never think that you're going to, I mean, when you're studying meteorology, that's like a really small sliver. You don't really think you're ever going to use something like that. Well, that night we used it and I called the weather service. The weather service, they did a modeling of it and they showed that the winds were going to be switching that night. And because we had a cold front coming in, so we're going to go from south winds to a north wind. And they actually moved the triage in west into a different location because of that forecast. Yeah. So, that was a major event, one that I'll definitely carry for a long time because it was just interesting. We were getting calls from all over the world of just wanting to know information. And you and Bruce were there for how many hours?
Long time. We went on the air about, I want to say,
it was dinner time.
8-ish.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'd
gotten back after dinner, and Bruce meets me in the parking lot saying, there's been an explosion. Of course, we would always say, don't bother me unless the Alico building explodes. That's kind of our running joke. And I said, you're kidding, right? No, there was an explosion in West. So, and we were on the air until, I know, early morning hours, and then came back on the air later, in the 5 or 6. So, yeah, it was a long reporting period, but it's just one of those tragic events that you just couldn't even in your wildest dreams.
Yeah, who
come
thinks?
Up, yeah, think
West.
That something like that, or that something like that would happen, and the bravery of the firefighters
and the whole world got interested.
Yeah, sure.
Right here in Central Texas.
Sure, but again, like you say, that's why we do the work. What is the one thing you think people do not understand about the weather that you wish they did?
The one thing.
Or maybe more than one thing. Could be a lot of things.
Just understand that we're forecasting for a viewing area and not your house.
Yeah.
Because we put in a 50%, 60% chance of rain. Well, that still means there's a 40 to 50% chance it won't rain at your house. And remember, we're dealing with probabilities here. So when we're going a 90% chance, probably most of the area is going to get, but we're giving ourselves that little cushion because one little part of the area may not see the rain.
Right.
Or we have a 20%. Oh, it rained on me. Well, we had a 20% chance of raining. You just happened to be at the lucky spot. So go play the lottery or something because you were lucky today. But that's the one thing that we have to forecast San Saba to Centerville, Hillsboro to Georgetown, Waco, Temple, Killeen. It's a big area. So we're just not forecasting for one specific point. So I think that's the one thing that I really want people to realize, that when we're putting a probability out there, it's not for your just exact location. It's for the viewing area.
And so when you have to do those cut-ins.
Oh, that's always fun.
Okay. Well, some of the worst ones. The worst ones was it a Dallas Cowboy game? Because I've been there.
Okay, that was in Amarillo. That was when I was working in Amarillo. I had a Dallas Cowboys game on the Fox station. We were a duopoly. It was Fox and NBC, and the Olympics were on the NBC station, and there was a swimming medal final. And the Cowboys were on a preseason game.
And you had to cut in.
And I had to cut in for a tornado warning.
Oh, my.
Woo! Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, people get real upset. They call the station.
They can, but It's actually gone down a lot in the past 10 years, or since I've been here.
Yeah.
People don't complain because there are so many avenues you can get that program now.
Yeah.
You can just hop on to digital services and it's there for you the next day. So people still get mad, but it's not nearly what it was when we didn't have all those options to see television shows.
Yeah, I remember though that Dancing with the Stars.
Oh, Dancing with the Stars or Grey's Anatomy or anything like that.
Finale, I think, for Dancing with the Stars, and you had to cut in. So what is the rule? When do you so people understand? This is when I have to cut in. You know, sometimes you can use
tornado warning.
You can do a crawl.
Tornado warning always.
Yeah,
because that can kill people.
Sure.
I usually put a threshold. Golf ball size hail or larger, because that can create a lot of damage, and people want to know about that, or winds in excess of 70 miles per hour. Now, the official warning criteria is quarters, 60-mile-per-hour winds, and we'll usually run a crawl for that, or if it's close to a populated area, we'll do a quick cut in. But to stay on the air, it needs to be something pretty major.
Yeah. Well, that is one thing. People can get upset, and I would like to say, if it's your grandmother that is in the path of that tornado, wouldn't you want her to know about it? It may be perfectly sunny at your house, but, it is a big area.
You can't please everyone. I've been called every name in the book. I'm still going. I'm still going.
Well, we're glad, and I miss being with you every day at work.
Do you?
But,
Do you, Ann?
Well, a little bit. Yeah. Maybe 30%.
There you go.
There we go. Let's do
dealing with probabilities. There we go. 30%.
But our time is drawing to an end. But I like to end these visits with a simple questionnaire. It's similar to the one that the late great James Lipton would do on Inside the Actor's Studio. You remember that?
I remember that.
Okay. And so here's my version of it. What's your favorite word?
My favorite word? Oh, man. There's a lot of them out there. My favorite word? I think it's a town in Northwest Texas, Chillicothe. I mean, that's just a weird name.
You did have to learn a lot of strange names.
Oh, yes. I know a lot of things about Texas.
Yeah.
I know a lot of counties, too, and I try to remember them. So
yes, you had to. It was a fast learning curve when you came with all those names.
When I had that town name, I was like,
Chillicothe.
How do I even say that?
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, what's your least favorite word?
We have to keep this clean. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Wrong.
Okay.
I don't like being wrong.
Yeah. Well, accuracy is really kind of what you hang your hat on.
So being wrong is not a good thing.
Yeah, that's a bad thing. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, emotionally?
I would have to say it's the weather. Seeing the dynamics of the weather, actually getting to enjoy the weather, not just being on TV, but when I'm actually off and I'm somewhere else and I can just see a cloud grow or see a thunderstorm grow or something like that. I think it's that.
Yeah, you love to storm
and it does pull me closer to nature. It pulls me closer to God. And it's like, wow, this is a creation that was made.
What turns you off then, creatively or spiritually?
When people put you down. I don't like people that just that put people down, me or my staff. I don't like that.
Yeah, and they do feel like they can say anything to you.
Yes.
For some reason.
Because they feel like they know you.
Yeah.
So you'd say something to your family member, so they think you as a family member, so they just say it.
Well, that's true. You're in their home. That's true. What sound do you love the most?
Sound do I love the most? Snow crunching. When it's under your feet.
Yeah, you don't hear that very often around here.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think I like that sound.
Oh, that's cool. What sound do you hate?
I'd say nails on a chalkboard is definitely one of those. I think that's cliche. I know, but everyone puts.
There's a reason. I think it just goes up your back. What other profession would you have wanted to try, rather than meteorology?
Maybe. I'm a people person, so it had to be something with people. What I would say, I'm interested in politics. So maybe being a representative or something like that. So if I didn't do meteorology, I'd probably be in the public sector
as an
elected official.
Public service you're doing, job you do now, really. Yes. Truth be known. What job do you know you would not like to do?
I have a lot of respect for them, but I don't want to be a construction worker on a highway. I have a lot of respect for those guys.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
It is. It's dangerous. It's hot. It's cold. You deal with all the elements of the weather every single day, and I see that, And so it's not that I'm not degrading that at all. I'm saying I just would not want to do that day in and day out.
And finally, what do you want to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Good job. You did your job. You served your purpose on earth of what I put you there for.
Oh, Matt, thank you so much. Matt Hines. You can catch him weekdays at what, 5, 6,
5, 6,
10?
and 10.
5,
and
6,
I'm at home
10.
still. So
and you're
we'll
still
see.
at home. Someday you'll be back in the studio.
One day. But, it's pretty cool being in the studio.
And be with your family.
And then being at home, it's shown me a whole different element. And when your kid can come, when Addison or Austin can come in, or Stephanie for that matter, and just say, hey, how you doing? Here's something. Here's a Coke or something. I mean, it's pretty cool being at home.
Yeah, it's different.
It is.
It is different. Anyway, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
You got it, Ann.
Central Texas Living is part of the Rogue Media Network family. Be sure to check out their other shows at roguemedianetwork.com. Please rate us 5 stars on iTunes and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Join us again soon for more Central Texas Living, the podcast.
Hello, and thank you for tuning into KNOW Waco. I am your host, Debbie, here to help you get in the know about Waco. So you may be asking yourself, why am I here? I'm here to be your tour guide through Waco. I'm here to tell you all the goings-on in and around Waco. I'm going to give you the 411 on what's happening, what's going on, and what events you should go to. This is your host, Debbie, signing off. Now that you know, go. Just go, Waco.
You are going on a run.
This has been Rogue Media Network Podcast.